There's more reason to play Titania right now. Her new deluxe skin, the Titania Empress skin, is just one, but aside from being exquisitely appealing to the eye right now, this frame has also received several tweaks and improvements that made her viable even in solo plays. Now I got no problem doing long endurance runs with my Titania in the past, even if it's a solo run. Her evasion does work well for me, and, even without the meta quick thinking build in the past, I can stay beyond an hour in a survival mission easily. You see, some players get the wrong information about Titania's bonus evasion. They might see it as unreliable, but, if you stay mobile, move from side to side while shooting your exalted pistols, you will have no problem surviving with this frame. But I must admit, once enemy levels scale beyond 150 plus, Titania's evasion won't be enough. I can't dodge every bullet, especially in solo mode, and most probably, it's just a matter of time until a corrupted bombard missile hit me in the face unknowingly. Quick thinking is a good option to survive at least one heavy hit, but still, it will drain a lot of energy. But squad leader, how about putting adaptation on your build, and then putting rage? Well, that's a good point, but it's not a viable option since Titania doesn't have any other innate damage mitigation aside from her evasion. Titania isn't meant to tank, or is she? With the recent changes that happened during Update 24, both Agility Drift and Aviator mods now affect Titania. This means that you can have 52% damage reduction while you are in Raise or Wing mode. It gets better when you also equip the Aerodynamic Aura, which gives you a total of 76% damage reduction. If you can add Coction Drift in your build, then you will have 83% damage mitigation while having all these mods. Now that's only for solo plays. In team composition, 2 members of your team can equip 2 copies of Aerodynamic mod, then at least 3 copies of Coction Drift, and you will have the capped 90% damage reduction. But squad leader, Titania has 50% evasion, then she can also apply 50% debuff on accuracy with her dust attribute. It's better to not get hit, compared to being hit, right? Well, good point. But the problem is, that's not how the accuracy debuff and evasion works on Titania. Having 50% evasion, and proccing the accuracy debuff on enemies doesn't mean you won't get hit. Instead, 50% evasion means that mechanically, only 1 out of every 2 shots fired which would hit you, will hit you. Though in reality is more like a flip of a coin. The accuracy debuff strips the enemy's capacity to hit you by a larger margin, as already inaccurate weaponry becomes even less effective, meaning Grineer are extremely screwed when trying to shoot you. However, area of effect weapons can, and will hit you if you lose the coin toss. The 2 buffs are separate, one affects projectiles which actually hit you, the other affects all shots made by enemies in range. It's purely based on chance, and not a guaranteed option that you won't take any damage. That is why, having some damage mitigation is also a good idea, especially in high-level missions, as probably, you can't dodge every bullet that are being shot on you. Anyway, you can actually take advantage of both damage mitigation, and taking little to no damage at all, given that you have the right mods for the job. Now, before you see my build, take note that this mod setup is based on my playstyle. I'm usually a solo player, and I always tuned my build to have both survivability and the power to kill enemies, at high-level endurance runs. Like always, use this as a guide and do not follow it blindly. So basically, my build focuses on duration, power strength, and a lot of survivability. In this case, I got the 76% damage mitigation coming from these mods. Plus, I got 56% evasion coming from Razor Wings passive, and from this merciless mod. That's enough survivability for me, as I can easily crowd control enemies, and regenerate my life, in one click of a button. Nope, I'm not talking about Titania's abilities, I'm talking about our operator. Thank God Digital Extremes finally heard our cries, of letting us transfer out from Titania, even if Razor Wing is active. Now, we have the option to stop enemies from attacking, by simply equipping the Operator Arcane, Magus Lockdown, and, we can also easily restore our life with Magus Elevate, by simply transferring in and out of our frame. Honestly, this setup wherein you have evasion, damage mitigation, and a way to both heal and crowd control enemies, is far better survivability compared to having the quick thinking and rage setup. The best part is, it lets you play Titania the way she should be played, and that is constantly moving around, and killing enemies. The only downside of my build is range. as you will most likely need to be 8 meters away from an enemy to cast her tribute ability. But don't worry, as you won't have a problem casting it on a target, since you can easily stun lock an enemy, and you have some good survivability to support you while doing so. Just remember, the most important tribute that we need here is the dust buff, which lowers the accuracy of enemies. And also, remember the fact that you will need to cast tribute on either a lancer, or a crewman enemy type. The good news is, the radius of the aura, coming from the tribute ability doesn't need range at all. Once you have the dust tribute, enemies that surrounds you will be affected by the debuff. One last thing. In terms of her exalted weapons, I often use her dex pixia compared to her melee. It's really a personal preference, as up until now, I'm still experimenting on a good melee build for Titania, that I can take in high-level missions. I'm just being honest here. Until now, I'm really having a hard time figuring out how to build a DPS melee Titania. So, for the meantime, I'm just gonna share my dex pixia build. The build is pretty simple. Just have a lot of fire rate, add those primed critical mods, give it some multi-shot, and add 2 dual status mods, which element damage depends on the faction you are facing. While using Titania for a very long time now, I found out that status is better compared to 90% elemental builds. The fire rate of this exalted guns makes a status build worth it, since you can definitely proc a couple of status in just a matter of second, knowing how fast this gun can fire. Same goes with the critical mods. The base critical stats of Dex Pixia may seem pretty small to build it for critical, but it actually does better compared to other builds, since Dex Pixia's fire rate makes sure that you will proc some crits before you will empty your magazine. With this build, I can assure you that your Dex Pixia will be one of the best DPS guns in the game. So with that much survivability, plus her undeniable DPS output, I can say that Titania is really a must-try frame right now. Allowing Titania to have damage reduction from airborne mods was a pretty good change, as it gives this pixie queen another layer of survivability, while the inclusion of Operator to Titania's gameplay was the icing on the cake, allowing her to survive much longer in endurance runs. I just hope that after seeing this video, you now have all the necessary knowledge to play Titania like a boss, and it will reinvigorate your interest of playing this pixie queen again. Thank you so much for watching. Squad Leader signing off.